So that's what we're trying to do. The cultural thing is very hard to deal with. We have a secretary who has a great background in medicine as a general, but he's only there for a year. This is the second biggest bureaucracy in the government. It's hard to get it to respond. You need Jesse Brown's kind of enthusiasm and get out there and inspire folks. We have a lot of wonderful people in the VA. They're there because they want to treat veterans. But if they haven't had enough money for years and they keep having, we ask them to do more and more but less and less, they become unresponsive. They may be rude. They may not seem to care. You got to inspire them all the time. You got to give them the resources, but keep their commitment high. And I hope a new administration will be able to do that. I had for this year 3 priorities. I did not meet them, but we're not giving up. With your help, mandatory funding was one. We haven't gotten it, but we're going to get it. By the way to get access for all of our veterans, whether in rural areas or outside, is to make the VA more and more accessible, give them the resources. You had a speaker yesterday. I forget his name. I don't know, Mick Bush? No. I'm not supposed to be partisan here, right? He came out, he said, we got to have a credit card. Now that sounds, I guess, good on the surface. But we cannot privatize the Veterans Administration. We have to make it better. We have to make it better. Yes, in rural areas and in hard for places where you don't have the expertise in the VA, yes, let's get them to outside the system and get them the care they need. But that has to be in certain situations, not a general thing. We must make the VA better. And we're making it better with my other 2 priorities. Number 1, a GI Bill for the 21st century. Now, you all know how important the GI Bill was for World War II. I'm here because of the GI Bill. My dad came back from World War II. He was able to get some education, but he was able to buy a house for a couple of $1,000s. We had always lived in apartments with our relatives. All of a sudden, I'm in the middle class. And that GI Bill was taken advantage of by 8 million veterans came back home. It made the middle class of America. And yet the GI Bills since World War II have not kept up with what we tried to do in World War II. The Montgomery GI Bill was great, but even that did not keep up. So I wrote a bill that said, well, number 1, let's replicate for the 21st century what we did for our World War II heroes. And we got half of that passed in the budget bill. It's signed into law. A GI Bill that actually will cover the cost of college, that will, in fact, be flexible in terms of the kind of coursework you can have and when the things are paid. And most important, it included the National Guard, who have been in active duty and who have fought half of the fighting force in Iraq is National Guard, and yet they didn't have the same benefits. So they now have access to the same benefits if they were in active duty than all the soldiers who did. But we didn't put the housing part of the bill in. We got a little crisis going on now. I'm sure, and the VA has not responded to that. You cannot refinance your house more than $144,000 and at a 5% fee. That's not any good. You can't buy a house if it's more than about $400,000. Let's update that like we updated the education part. Let's lower the fees. Let's lower the equity. Let's make sure that veterans can get the house that they deserve and need, and not let them go through the same thing that everybody else is suffering. You served us. We should serve you at a time of crisis or a time of. So we need to complete the GI Bill. And lastly, many of you have had to confront the disability claim system. It's a disgrace. You got almost 800,000 backlog. I mean, in the 21st century, to treat you like that is terrible. I want to clean up, as I said, a good part of that by honoring the Agent Orange claims. But, when you file your tax return, if you filed one last April and you had a refund coming, you got a check within 3 weeks from a IRS which was dysfunctional 20 years ago. Now you get your check within 3 weeks. People are waiting years for their disability adjudication. Decades. Why can't we do what the IRS has figured out how to do? If you file a claim and you had the help of your veteran service officers who are certified, they know what they're doing, let's send you the check when the claim comes in. And we'll audit it later like the IRS does. I don't care if it takes them 5 years or 10 years. We'll audit it later. But let's get the compensation that you deserve. If you got the medical records, if you got the medical documentation and you were helped by a veteran service officer, I trust you. I trust you. But like the IRS says, you're subject to audit. Well, your claim is subject to audit. We can get that backlog down to where it belongs at zero, because they must have 10 or 20,000 people working there whose sole job is to call you a liar. Let's put them into health care and take care of you and stop calling you a liar and become an advocate for veterans. That's my goal as a VA. Now, we got a lot of problems, as I outlined, but we got a wonderful system of medical care in most areas, and thanks to the work that you've done over decades, some of the best medical care in the world. But we got to cut through that bureaucracy so everybody has access to that medical care. And that's my aim. I know it's your aim. I think we can do this job. We have to do the job. I mean, we have a $3 trillion budget. The VA takes up close to $100 billion. I mean, that's not overamount. Sounds like a lot of money when I say $100 billion if we're $3 or $4 billion short, but out of a $3 trillion budget, we owe it to you. You deserve it. We made a contract with you. We ought to keep it. We ought to keep that contract. I will tell you, on the war in Iraq, we're spending $1 billion every 2 days. $1 billion every 2 days. Surely we can fund the warrior at the level that everybody needs, deserves, and has earned. So I tell you, with all the problems we got, I'm very hopeful that we can change the culture in the VA to make sure it's more responsive, change the law, get mandatory funding, get a disability claim system that is rapid, make sure everybody has the benefits that we know as a country we can give, and do the job right. I know DAV is working on this day and night. You all are here because you care about your comrades, you care about others, and with your help, we're going to do this job the way it should be done. Thank you very much.